Let us begin with a prayer. This is on page 204 of this book, The Universal Prayers. The second one on that page, 204. And the English translation is on page 205. Om Pita Tvam Mata Tvam Daitatanayastvam Priyasuhrit Tvameva Tvam Mitram Gururasi Gatischasi Jagatam Tvadiyastvadbhrityastava Parijanastvadgatiragam Prapannaschaivam Satyam Ahamepitevasmi Haraha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Lord, you are the Father, Mother, husband and son. You are the dear friend, relative and teacher and the goal of the universe. I am thine own, thy servant and attendant. You are my only refuge. I have taken shelter in you, and verily, O Lord, does my burden rest wholly on thee. This is prayer, surrendering one's everything to God and considering God as everything. Once everything is God, Father, Mother, everything is God. That is prayer for Sharanagati, total surrender. This is from a scripture called Stotra Ratna. I'm not familiar with that hymn, Stotra Ratna. Very nice prayer. Now we continue with chapter 12 of the Gita. Here it is. We have been studying the second part of chapter 12, verses 13 to 20, 13 to 19 or 20. This part is a description of a devotee, bhakta, qualities of a bhakta. Ayan is there, good. Qualities of a bhakta, those devotees who are worshipping Akshara Brahma, God without form, without attributes, without name. They are very similar to the qualities of those devotees who worship God with form, with attributes, with name. Small differences are there. In the Narada Bhakti Sutra, devotional aphorisms of Narada, Narada describes devotees who worship God with name and form. Sri Ramakrishna also recommends that we follow Narada Bhakti, Naradiya Bhakti, devotion as taught by Narada Maharshi. Here in this 12th chapter of the Gita, Sri Krishna has said in the first part, he had said that whether a person worships God with form, with name and qualities, or worships God without name and form and qualities, they both reach the same goal. Just two different, slightly different paths within devotion, but the goal is the same. So we are studying verse number 17th, we finished, I think, last time. 18th, we have to do. Two more verses. 18th verse. Samashatrau cha mitre cha tatha manapamanayo शीतोष्ण सुख दुखेषु samasanga vivarjitaha. All these qualities must be familiar to us from earlier chapter, second chapter, where Sri Krishna described the qualities of a sthita prajna, a sage of steady wisdom. These are very similar to those qualities. Samaha shatrocha mitrecha. Shatru means really a devotee should not have any shatru at all. The shatru means enemy. Enemies are not people other than us. The enemies are within us. The six enemies, traditionally, they are called the six enemies. Ari, Shat, Varga. Ari means enemy. Shat means six. Varga means group. Group of six enemies. They are within us. They are not people outside us. The inner enemies, lust, anger, greed, pride, jealousy, delusion, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, jealousy. These can cause much greater harm to us than any person outside of us. So those are the real enemies that we have to confront and conquer, the six enemies within. Shatru means those are real enemies. But here, in the present context, Shatru means people, other people who don't like us, who are antagonistic to us. Towards them also, we should have same consideration as we have towards Mitra. Mitram means our friends. This came in the sixth chapter, Shlokam number 9, where Bhagavan Sri Krishna described the quality of Samadarshitvam. Samadarshitvam means same-sightedness, treating everybody alike with love, respect, and compassion, seeing the presence of God in all, including those who are not friendly towards us. Chapter 6, verse 9, important verse. There, Bhagavan Shri Krishna had said, same words he used there. Sugran mitra yuda sena madhyastadveshya bandhushu sadhushvapi papeshu samabuddhi vishishyate. Even towards sadhus, holy people, papeshu, those who are sinners. A sinner will not forever remain sinner. He will become a sadhu sooner or later. That we studied in 9th chapter. 9th chapter, there are two shlokas, 30 and 31, where Bhagavan had said, a person who may be a wicked person right now, Sudaracharaha. Such a person at some point will turn around and become a sadhu, Mahatma, holy person. That will come, that point of transformation will come in everybody's life. No one will ever forever remain a wicked person. That's the grace of God, because God is residing in them, even the wicked people. Just a matter of time, they have to recognize, realize, and make change. Such a person can become a sadhu quickly. Chapter 9, verses 30, 31. Apichet sudaracharo ajate mamananya bhak. Why I'm saying this? Because Shatru here means people who are not friendly towards us. Towards them also we have to behave with, show them respect and kindness, but may have to stay away from them. It's not safe to become very close friends with wicked people, but we should not have hatred towards them in our heart. So chapter 9, verse 30, 31, very important verses. If anybody is feeling repentant and regretting about past mistakes done, there is hope for everyone. Sri Krishna Bhagavan gives assurance to every being without any exception, no matter how wicked a person may have been in the past. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma. Kshipram means quickly, such a person becomes a dharmatma. a righteous person by the grace of God. But that person has to make a change and start praying to God for Sadbuddhi, for Sanmati, clean mind, make him or her free from impurities. So Samashatrocha Mitrecha. Same thing in 6th chapter, verse 9. Suhran Mitrari Udasena. Ari means Shatru. Mitra means a friend. Mitra is a friend. There are different kinds of friends. Mitra is a special kind of friend who does good to us without expecting anything in return from us. Some people help us, but there is an expectation that we will also return their favor sometime. But a person who does not have such expectation of getting anything in return for the help he or she does, such a friend is called a mitra. Towards mitra, towards friends like that, towards enemies, samashatraucha mitra, samaha, equanimous, treating everybody alike. With respect, love, and compassion, but with wicked people, you have to stay away from them. It's not safe to get too close to them. In the Narada Bhakti Sutras, Narada says, Dussangaha sarvataiva tyajyaha. Dussanga means company of evil people. Sarvataiva tyaja, by all means we have to stay away from wicked people because it is not safe for us to mix closely with wicked people. From a distance, we have to show respect and love, but not become too friendly with such people. Samashatrocha mitrecha. Tatha mana apamanayoho. Samaha means equanimous, remaining alike. Treating alike, remaining alike. Not too much elated when some people praise us. Mana means praise, respect. Some people show respect to us, praise us, say good things about us. But that should not turn our head. We should not begin to think, oh, I'm such a great man, they are praising me like that. That will not, it's not permanent. The same people who praise us today, they may not praise us, they may blame us tomorrow. That's the nature of the world. So we should not allow that to get to our heads. Okay. We accept that gracefully and be ready if their opinion changes about us. Sama tata mana apamanayoho. Apamana means opposite of respect. They insult us, embarrass us, give us trouble. People do all kinds of things. That's the nature of the world. You can't do anything about it. You can't change the world. So he just have to accept it and go along. Not be affected by it too much either way. By praise or blame. Mana apamana. By praise or blame. In the 14th chapter, we have not studied yet. When we get to that, there is the same phrase, mana apamanayo samaha comes. We'll study that later when we get there. Tatha manapa, tatha means in the same way, samaha manapa manayo. Oh, remaining calm in praise and blame. Not be upset when people blame us. Even unjustly, some people blame us for something we did not do. Then also we should not get too much up, that it upset us too much. Okay, that's the nature of the world. Let us not be bothered by it too much. No need to react and revenge. That's not good for us, for a spiritual seeker. In the Song of Sannyasin, composed by Swamiji in Thousand Island Park in 1895, Swamiji said the same thing. He'd then no more how body lives or goes, its task is done. Let karma float it down. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame, say not. No praise or blame can be, where praise or praised and blame or blamed are one. Thus be thou calm, sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. Somebody praises us, somebody blames us. Somebody puts garland, somebody will kick. Sri Ramakrishna was actually kicked by another priest in Dakshineshwar, but he didn't react. It's okay. That ability to absorb praise and blame and remain unaffected is very important virtue for all devotees, whether they worship God with form or without form, does not matter. Even for other worldly people, even if they want to succeed in life, they should have the ability to absorb unpleasant experiences and not be too much affected by that one. Tatha manapamanayo. Then next line. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samaha sangha vivarjitaha. Shita ushna sukha dukkha. Shita means cold. Ushna means heat or hot. Sukha means happiness, mental experiences. Dukkha means unhappiness in the mind. So Priya is there. Very good. Shita Ushna means physical sensations, heat, cold and heat. Physical sensations vary. It won't be same all the time. Sometimes comfortable, sometimes uncomfortable. Weather also changes. Sukha Dukkha means our experiences of pain and pleasure and pain. That also changes. Nothing is permanent. What the devotee should do, samaha, shitashna sukha dukkheshu, samaha. How can we remain calm in dukkha and ushna, shita ushna? There is a clue to this one. There is instruction already given in the second chapter of the Gita. Sri Krishna had already told us how to remain calm, unaffected by heat and cold and praise and blame, happiness and happiness. They are inevitable in everybody's life. But what should we do to remain calm, unaffected by good and bad, happiness and happiness? In the second chapter, verse number 14, very important verse. 2:14. There, Sri Krishna explains the nature of heat and cold and happiness and happiness. What is Shita Ushna Sukha Dukkha? Where is it? In our mind only. Outside in the world, there is no Shita Ushna Sukha Dukkha. Weather may change. Sometimes in summer it is hot, winter it's cold. But our being affected by that change of weather is in our minds. We are affected by it. We are affected by it to the extent we allow ourselves to be affected by it. By anything in the world. Whether people praise us or blame us, whether you are sick or healthy, whether you are rich or poor, whatever happens to us, the extent to which we are affected depends upon ourselves. To what extent we allow ourselves to be affected by these things. Some people they don't allow any of these things to affect them. Whatever happens, they remain calm. Some people have that ability. And some people, every small thing affects us so much. That little thing happens, they become very unhappy or very angry or bitter or very happy and celebrate. We have to we have to learn that stability. I'm not going to be affected no matter what happens. People blame us, people praise us. Something good happens, something bad happens. I remain calm and unaffected. That's how we should develop that stability. That is a quality of our mind. We have to train our mind to remain unaffected by all these changes which are inevitable in everybody's life. So how to do that one, how to gain that stability was already told to us by Sri Krishna in the second chapter, verse 14. There Bhagavan had said, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada agama apayanaha tam titikshasva bharata. Titikshasva, the key word in the shloka is titikshasva, instruction. You forbear, you tolerate, you remain calm. Titiksha is a very great virtue. Those of you who studied Viveka Chudamani are familiar with the discipline Titiksha. Shamadamangadi, here it comes. Titiksha means ability to bear all kinds of variations in life, good or bad, without being affected too much. No much exaltation in good things, and when good experience happen, good happens, and not too much unhappiness and suffering when bad things happen. The ability to accept both of them and remain as unperturbed as possible, that is a very important ability. How can we do that one? In the second chapter, verse 14, Sri Krishna says, if you understand the nature of happiness and unhappiness, then we can deal with that. What is happiness, what is unhappiness? If you understand, then we can deal with them calmly. What is the nature of happiness and unhappiness? He explains it very nicely in the first line, in the second chapter, verse 14. Matra sparshasta kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada. Why you are discussing this? Because in the second line of verse 18, shitoshna sukha dukkeshu samaha. That's what we are trying to learn. How to remain calm, samaha, equanimous in shitoshna sukha dukkha. So these are all in the mind only. If there are two people, same experience happens to both of them. One person reacts one way, another person reacts in a different way. Something good happens, two people are there. One person remains calm, it's okay, good, thank you. But not being attached to that one, because it will change. The second person becomes too much exalted, very happy, and starts celebrating. If something bad happens, the first person takes it in stride. It's okay. Yesterday was something good, today something bad. These things are going to happen. That's life. Remains calm, unaffected. Second person becomes so much unhappy, depressed, anger, bitter, starts crying and blaming everybody. See how two different people react to the same situation, same stimulus. That's in our hands. How we react to the circumstances in life is in our control, in our hands. That's why Sri Krishna says, Titikshasa, practice forbearance. Titiksha means forbearance, ability to bear all kinds of things, good and bad, calmly without being too much perturbed. That ability we all have to practice. Otherwise, there will be no happiness at all. Every small thing affects us too much. That should not be allowed to happen. Shitaushna sukha dukkha. Agama apayinaha. Anityaha. They are temporary. Nothing is permanent. Today, everything is happy. There is no guarantee it will be there like that tomorrow. It may change or after some time. If something is going very bad today, unhappiness and grief and suffering, next day or after 1 month, it may change and things may turn around. Nothing is permanent. Anityaha, not permanent. So we try to accept everything calmly. So, Shitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu Samaha. That comes in several places in the Gita, equanimity. For example, in the chapter 5, which you studied, all earlier chapters we have to associate, connect with what we are studying now, what we studied before. Chapter 5, verse 20. Same thing Sri Krishna had said. There is a lot of repetition in the Gita for a good reason. If you are told once, it will not make much impact on our minds. We'll forget it. But if you, like children, have to be told so many times, if you tell them once, they will not change their behavior. Keep on telling them every time, they do something wrong. So we are like that. Bhagavan knows that people cannot retain this information if you are just told once. You have to be told again and again. So he says, chapter 5, verse 20, there Bhagavan has said the same thing. What did he say there? 520, na prahishyet priyam prapya no dvijet prapya cha priyam sthira buddhira sammudho brahmavid brahmani sthitaha. First line, 520. Priyam prapya na prahishyet. Priyam means something pleasant, agreeable, something that we like. Priyam prapya, if you get something that we like, good thing happens to us, Na praharshyet. Praharsha means too much celebration, enjoyment, happiness, exaltation. That's why moderate. We enjoy everything. We will be happy if good things happen. You don't have to be unhappy. Good things happen. We are thankful. We are happy. Enjoy it, but within moderate limits. Apriyam prapya. If something unpleasant happens, which is going to happen in everybody's life, na udvijet. Udvega means disturbance of the mind, perturbed, becoming perturbed. Something small happens, people become so much upset, angry or crying or sad. Moderate our feelings. Keep our feelings within small amplitude. Amplitude modulation, as they say. Anger, jealousy, pride, etc., celebration should be within moderate limits. AM, FM, frequency also. If you become very angry very often every day, we should reduce it to become angry once in 3 days, then become angry once in 1 week. So reduce the frequency modulation. You're becoming angry, upset. Amplitude modulation. If so much unhappiness, make it all day tolerable within moderate limits. It's okay. It's good to enjoy, good to feel bad also. It's okay. We are human beings, we have emotions, we feel sad, we feel bad. That's okay. But how much? Moderate limits. That we can do. Shitoshna sukhadukeshu samaha. Last one, very important. The whole message of Gita is here. Sangha vivarjitaha. If you ask me to explain the essence of Gita, whole summary of 18 chapter 700 verses in one word, what would that word be if you are asked? You have been studying Gita. Some friend asks, you have been going to Gita class every day, every week. What is that? What is the essence of Gita? What does Gita say? Sri Krishna says in the Gita. Can you say it in one word? Huh? Detachment. Sangha vivarjita. Detachment is the whole essence of Gita, only one word. That's enough. If you practice that, we will understand Gita. It's not what I am saying. Sri Ramakrishna said this one. Sri Ramakrishna said the whole essence of Gita you will get by repeating the word Gita 10 times. Gita, Gita, Gita. What happens? Gita, Gita, Gita. Jagi means one who renounces. Renunciation, detachment. That's the whole essence of Gita. That comes in many places. Can you think of one place where Sangha Vivarjita came before? Giving up attachment. Sangha means attachment. Attachment to people, property, body, our relatives, attachment to everything. To give that up. For example, chapter 2, verse 48. Many places it has come. Chapter 2, verse 48. There, Bhagavan Sri Krishna said, whenever we do some work, we have a tendency to become attached to the work and its results. Karma, phala, become attached. Natural tendency of human beings. He says, remain calm in success and failure. 248. Sometimes you succeed when you do some work. Sometimes, in spite of very hard work, we fail. Failure comes because it's not in our hands. Success, failure is not in our hands. Work we can control. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Previous verse, 247. So 248, Sri Krishna says, in success and failure, you remain calm. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Essence of yoga is samatva, equanimity. Equanimity in pain, pleasure, gain, loss, praise and blame, good and bad. Equanimity. That's the essence of Gita. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So siddhya siddhyo sama bhutva. Siddhi means success in our work. We do something, we succeed. We take it calmly. All right, I succeeded. It is good. Thank God. Thank other people who help in succeeding in this success. Very good. Supposing we fail in spite of hard work, which happens very often, we should not be too much upset or angry or bitter, blame others. That also we should accept it, take it in stride, everything good and bad. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Equanimity is the essence of yoga. 248. Same thing here. Sangha vivarjitaha. Becoming free from attachment to everything, to result of our karma phala, to karma, to our property, possessions, our body, our relatives, my house, my work, my job, my child, my money. Nothing is mine really. We have studied that before. Nothing belongs to us, not even the body, which I call my body. So that we have studied that one. No attachment to anything. Sangha vivarjita. These are all qualities of a devotee of God. Whether somebody worships God with form or without form, these qualities are common. Sangha vivarjitaha. That is verse number 8. Samasyatrau cha mitre cha tatha manapamanayo shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samaham sangha vivarjitaha. Very nice verse, very important verse. Now we go to the last one. Last one in describing the qualities, but one more concluding verse is there, 20th verse. 19th verse, equally important. Tulya ninda stutir mauni santushto yena kenachit aniketa sthiramatihi bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Very nice verse, important verse. Tulya ninda stutir mauni santushto yena kenachit aniketa sthiramatihi bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Tulya means samana, equal, common, equal. Tulya means equal. Ninda means blame. Stuti means praise. Same thing has come before. Equal, remaining equanimous in blame and praise. Ninda, stuti, samaha. Somebody blames us, ninda. Somebody praises us for the same thing. So that is the nature of the world. We cannot do much about that one. Let them praise, let them blame. But I remain unaffected. I remain calm. Both are same to me. I will not let the praise get to my head, become proud. I will not allow the blame to upset me too much. That's in my hands, how I react to praise and blame. That's there I have control. I can't control other people's behavior, but they will do whatever they like to do, praise or blame. But I can control my reaction to that one. Swami Suraparyanji gave a nice talk on the second arrow. That is the Buddhist idea. Second arrow is in our hands. There are two arrows in our lives. Arrows. First arrow is what happens to us due to prarabdha or whatever reason. Good happens, bad happens. Praise comes and blame comes. That's all it comes to us. We experience everybody in our lives. That's the first arrow. Arrow means something causing suffering. People blaming us, and ill health and sickness will come, poverty will come, other problems will come. That's the first arrow, suffering. The second arrow is how we react to that one. We can make it worse. The problem is this much, but I can make it this much by reacting in a wrong way. That's my second arrow. That's my reaction to the situation. If I react properly, then the suffering is this much, I can reduce it to this much. If I react in the wrong way, suffering is this much, I'll make it this much. The second arrow, how we react to the circumstances, experiences that come in our life is in our hands. That's where we have to exercise control. So tulyaninda stutir mauni, people praise, people blame, but I remain unaffected. Everyone become too much elated if people blame or if they praise. That is one thing we have to practice, equanimity in praise and blame. That has come many times, it will come again also. Tulyaninda Stutir Mauni. Mauni. Tulyaninda Stuti, one quality. Mauni means remaining calm, silent. The word Mauna does not mean not speaking. We need not speak, but we can communicate in many different ways. People do texting and they write post-it notes and put it on the refrigerator. They use body language, sign language, in all many different ways to communicate. But that is not Maunam. Maunam means keeping the mind calm, free from all unwanted thoughts. That will come in the 17th chapter. Mauna will come again in 17th chapter, where Sri Krishna describes the qualities of speech, disciplines of speech. Verse number 15, 17, 15. There, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Maunam is a speech discipline, it's a mental discipline, sorry. 14, 16, chapter 17, verse 16. Manah prasadaha saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha. It's all qualities of the mind, not of speech. Maunam is not a speech discipline, it's a mental discipline. Mind has to be calm. Whether we speak in words verbally or making sound or not, mind has to be calm. That's the essence of Maunam. Manah prasadaha saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhi iti etat tapo manasam uchyate. Manasam tapaha. Mental discipline, mental austerity is Maunam. That comes here. Sulyaninda Stutihi, Mauni keeps the mind calm, free from all unwanted thoughts. Also does not speak unnecessarily. What we speak should be necessary, relevant, timely, and not causing any inconvenience, embarrassment to other people, unto us. One can embarrass oneself by saying unwise things, foolish things. So that we should not do. Tulyaninda Stutir Mauni. Santushto yena kenachit. Santushta means, you are familiar with the word Santushta. It came in the same chapter, a few verses before. 12th chapter we came across Santushta. Where does it come? 14th verse. If you go back 3-4 verses more, Santushta satatam yogi yatatma drida nishchayaha. There Santushta came. Santosha means contentment. Patanjali also talks about contentment. Socha, Santosha, Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. These are all the niyamas. 5 niyamas. Santosha. Contentment is very important virtue. Santushtaha, yena kenachit. By whatever is there. Yena kenachit. Today there is not much food. Okay, we'll do with that. Tomorrow more food will come. That's okay. We remain calm. Anything. Santushto yena kenachit. By whatever is there, by that we are content. Now this can be misunderstood. This can be misunderstood, be complacent or not having enough drive to improve things. Supposing something that can be corrected happens, supposing the plumbing system breaks down in the kitchen sink gets clogged. I'm santushta, it's okay, that can be clogged. That is not santushta, that is not santosha, that is complacency or idleness or something. No, they have to take care of things. You have to see things are working properly. If something goes wrong, you have to correct it. Then you should not say, I will not do anything because I am santushta. I am contented. No, that's not contentment. Contentment means in regard to property, possessions, power, fame, we should remain. We should not be too much greedy. Opposite of greed. Santosha is opposite of greed. Lobha. Lobha will come in the 16th chapter. Kama, Krodha, Lobha. These are 3 things that we should give up. 16th chapter, we'll study that later. Santushto yena kenachit. And actually that came in the 4th chapter. Sometimes you have to connect the earlier chapters. What we studied, same thing studied before, earlier chapter, you have to associate, connect that with what we are studying now. Where did we get Santosha? Santosha, chapter 4, verse 22. 4:22. Yadricha labha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha. 422. Yadricha labha santushto. Whatever comes unsolicited, with that a yogi bhakta should be happy, not strive for more. That quality of devotee. Santushtaha yena kenachit, by whatever is there. Santushta satatam yogi in the 14th verse. Now, second line, verse 19. Aniketa sthiramatihi bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Aniketa means homeless. Literal meaning of Aniketa is homeless. Niketa means house, residence, dwelling place. Aniketa means not having dwelling place. Because should not be taken literally. We should have a place to stay. There are a lot of homeless people. They are not really yogis. They are not practicing yoga. They don't have it because they don't have the resources. They are homeless, staying under a tree, in a tent, or somewhere in a car. Many people. That's not the ideal situation. We should not become like that and call it a devotion. That's not that what is meant. What is meant is not being attached to a place as my place. The house may be in our name. I may own the house. The deed is in my name. I paid for it. I can call it in conversation my house. That's okay up to that. But we should know that nothing really belongs to me. Even the money with which I bought, it did not belong to me. It's gift from God. Our karma, the karma was good. We got a house to stay. We take care of it properly, nicely, keep it in good condition, because God dwells in all the houses. Our house is God's dwelling place. We will keep it in good condition, repair it and clean it every day, etc. That's good. You can say my house. Just like the maid servant working for a rich man in the big city refers to that rich man's house as my house, my Rama, my Hari, my garden, my kitchen. Like that, she refers to that, but it's not hers. She knows it very well. Her own cottage, small cottage in the village, but she refers to the master's house or her house as her house. Master's children are her children. My Rama, my Hari, my garden, my kitchen. She says that one. But she knows very well it is none of this belongs to her. In the same way, we can refer to our possessions, my house, my room, my property, my money, etc. We can say that, but we should know nothing belongs to us. Everything belongs to the Lord. He is the true owner of everything, of the whole universe. I also belong to him. But since this is temporary in my control, in my possession, the house is not a permanent possession. Before I entered the house, somebody was living there. That person used to call it my house. Now I'm calling it my house. When I leave, some other person will occupy there, he will call it his house. Whose house it is? It's God's property. Who are we then? We are temporary occupants. We are servants. We are managers. We are caretakers. We are house sitters. Everything belongs to him. That detachment should be internally practiced. Conversation, it's okay to say my house. Aniketa, not being attached to a place. Aniketa. It may be my place, but it really belongs to, everything belongs to the Lord. Not thine, not mine. That's what we should think. Aniketa, no attachment to particular place of living. Sthiramatihi. Sthiramatihi means in regard to spiritual practice, we should be firm. We should have firm determination. Sthiramatihi. Sthiramati means Paramartha Vastu Vishaya Yasyamati Isa Sthiramati. Paramartha Vastu Vishaya. Paramartha means spiritual matters. Supreme objective. Paramartha means supreme goal. What is God? In regard to spiritual matters, we should be firm, fixed. We cannot, no variation in our minds. That's Sthiramati. Firm determination, firmness of mind, not wavering. No wavering in regard to spiritual matters. It should be firm. Sthiramatihi, Aniketa Sthiramatihi, Bhaktiman Yaha Same Priyaha Yanaraha Bhaktiman me priyo naraha. That person, human being, nara means human being, who has these qualities, such as remaining equanimous in praise and blame, practicing silence, mental calmness, practicing contentment, and not being attached to any place or anything else, any position. A person, devotee who has these qualities described from verse 13 onwards, from 13 to 19. Lot of virtues, qualities are described by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. If you have these qualities, then we can call ourselves devotees. Without these qualities, we can't say I'm devoted to God. That won't be meaningful. We have to practice at least some of these virtues, if not all of them. Some of them are easy to practice. Some will come. If you begin with 2 or 3 virtues, others will gradually come. So this is the important part of 12th chapter, verses 13 to 19. Something that you can practice, but you have to practice. I emphasize more on practice rather than on philosophy. Philosophy is also in the Gita. Gita has 2 aspects: Yoga Shastra, Adhyatma Vidya. Adhyatma Vidya means knowledge of the self. That I am Brahman, I am not the body, mind, I am that supreme reality. All those things will come in the 2nd chapter and other chapters. That is one aspect. But more important than that is Yoga Shastra. This is all Yoga Shastra. Bhakti Yoga Shastra. Chapter 12, verse 13 to 19 is Bhakti Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra means the spiritual practices, virtues, disciplines we have to practice in order to be devoted to God. Otherwise, devotion simply means I'm devoted to Rama or devoted to Krishna means what does it mean? Unless you do these things. God looks in our heart whether we have these qualities, then we become dear to him. Me priyo naraha. So, very important part, 13 to 19. Now the last verse is simply a concluding verse. Verse number 20. Yetu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate Shraddhadana matparama bhaktaste ativa me priyaha. Ye, those people who idam dharmyamritam yatha uktam. Yatha uktam means as was described in 12 to 19, 13 to 19, as was described, yatha uktam maya uktam, as was described by me. Ye paryupasate, those who practice. Paryupasana means actually practicing these virtues. At least some of them, if not all of them. Those who practice these virtues, idam dharmyamritam, nectar of dharma. Amrita means nectar. Nectar means which grants immortality. If you practice these virtues, they give up our mortal nature as body, mind, we become immortal, one with God. That's what these virtues will do. Very important in our lives. Saddhana, I endowed with Shraddha, not half-heartedly, but with full earnestness. Saddha means earnestness, sincerity, earnestness. Not if you do possible today, I will do, if not tomorrow, not like that. Staramati, I must do this one. If I want to be devoted to God, I must practice this virtue. That determination must be there. Resolute determination must be there. Saddhatana matparama. Matparama has come again. So many times it has come again. Matparama means a person to whom God is the supreme goal. Parama means supreme. What is the one most important in our lives? If you ask that question, different people may give different answers. If you ask a person, tell me one thing that is most important in your life. And what that person will say depend upon that person's nature. Some people will say, my job, my profession is most important to me. They are committed to their profession. They are very sincere people. They're not bad people. They're committed to their profession. They want to make improvement, advancement, and work very hard, neglecting their family and health. Some people are workaholic. They work so hard. If you take the example of Madame Curie, Marie Curie, who discovered radium, radioactivity, she was totally dedicated to her scientific research. No resources, those days, no government grant, nothing. These days, science is big science. Millions of dollars grant will come from National Science Foundation and all those institutions for government funding, industry funds. No such thing was there in Madame Curie's time. But she neglected her own health. She was working with radioactivity without having the protection. These days we have all the lead jacket, all those things to protect from radioactivity. If you go to dentist's office, they take an X-ray and they'll put a chest cover here to protect you from radioactivity. Those things were not known because radioactivity was not known before her. She neglected means she didn't have the proper facilities to protect herself. She used to work in a very small lab, no big government lab these days. Huge labs are there. Industries are very huge labs. Government has huge labs. No such facility was there. So much committed to her research, neglected her health. That is the most. If you ask Marie Curie, what's most important to you? My scientific research is important to me. She will say that. Not family. Everything will come later. Will come later. If you ask another person what is most important to you, some person will say money is important to me. I knew a person. He's no longer there. Good man. And he was making a lot of money. He was a big industrial. He has so many 5-6 factories he had in India, in different places. Huge amount of money he made. And we are talking about some general things like this. He said, I want to make more money. He said that one. He was successful in it. He made a lot of money, accumulated huge amount of wealth. Then what happened? He led a good life and he died, and all the wealth went to his 2 sons. No, they are doing the same thing, what the father did. So for them, what is most important to you? If you ask, they will say money is most important. Like this, different people give different answers when you ask them what is important to you, supreme important to you. For devotees of God, what is most important? God. Everything will come later. Money, property, family, children, position, power, fame, all those things will come later. God is the most important. Just one thing that I want to achieve in life, God realization. That is Mat Parama. The word Mat Parama comes several times in the Gita. We can do other things. We can have a list of things to do. We can put other things, but God must be at the top of the list. Other things will come later. Gradually, other things will become unnecessary. Will cross them out. Oh, I don't need this. I don't need this. Only God will remain in that list. Only one item in that list. That is God. That's devotee. Devotee's life. Mat Shraddhadhana Mat Parama Dattaha. Those people who have practiced these virtues described before. Yaduktam Yathoktam Maya. Te Ativa Me Priyaha. They're very, very dear to me. Bhagavan concludes. So in this chapter, we notice 2 things. 2 parts are there in this chapter. 20 verses, 2 parts. Verse number 2 to 12, Bhagavan's answer. Verse number 1 is Arjuna's question. The chapter begins with Arjuna's question. Arjuna asks Bhagavan Sri Krishna, 2 kinds of devotees are there. Those who worship you with name and form and qualities, and those who worship you without name and form and qualities. Nirguna Nirakara Brahma. Saguna Sakara Brahma. 2 kinds of people are there who worship you in different ways. Of these 2, who is better? That was Arjuna's question. And verses 2 to 12, Sri Krishna answers, both of them achieve the same goal. Whether people worship God without name and form, Nirguna Nirakara Brahma, attributeless God, or whether they worship God with name and form and qualities, They both achieve the same goal. Their paths are slightly different. Many common things are there, but that is first part. No need to quibble or quarrel. My path is better. I'm worshipping God with form. I am better. You are worshipping God without form. What do you do? Like that, we should not argue. Both are equally good paths. Whichever is convenient to us, possible for us, we should follow that path. Second part of this chapter is 13 to 19, which we just now concluded studying, where a series of virtues, qualities of a devotee are described by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. What is the purpose of this list? This list, yes, Sri Krishna is fond of making lists. So in those days, he didn't have a cell phone. He would have put all the list on his cell phone. In second chapter, big list is there. Verses 55 to 72. Qualities of Chita Prajna. Long list is there. Some people memorize that portion. Chita Prajna Lakshana. Then again in the 12th chapter, 6th chapter also a short list were there. Those who meditate on God. 14th chapter again another list will come. List of those who have transcended the three gunas. Like that, many places. What's the purpose of this list? Why he gives so many lists in Gita? Only one purpose, that we should, all of us who want to realize God, must practice these virtues, whichever is convenient, whichever is possible. Everybody cannot do everything. Whichever is convenient, whichever is possible for us, depending on our ability and opportunity and other factors, we should practice these virtues. That's the only reason why this is given. The second reason is if somebody has these qualities, we can worship, emulate them. They are the Jnanis, they are Bhaktas. That is another reason. That is why this list is important. Now we shall stop here. I wanted to begin chapter 13, but there's not enough time. If you have any questions, we can spend a few minutes on questions, and then after that we conclude. And next time when we meet, by the grace of God, we will begin chapter 13. Very, very interesting chapter. Kshetrajna Yoga. Very interesting chapter. We'll study that next. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Santu Niramayah. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy. May all be free from diseases and other problems. May all realize and practice what is noble, dharmic. No one be subject to misery. Om, peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. No hatred, no ill will. Love for each other. Adi Bhavatika Shanti. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi Daivika Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu. All of you stay well. I see.